Welcome to our Hormone Freedom Hour. Helen and I are so excited to have this conversation and continue the conversation. We've been talking about this for a while, but really, I think you can probably relate. Many times people are, I probably hear this at least 3 times a week, 4 times a week, women who come to me and like, my lab said everything was normal. When I went to my OB-GYN, when I went to my primary care physician and had my annual checkup, everything came back normal. And yet you don't feel fantastic, right? Those are two very different things. And I just want to say, if you feel like I'm still exhausted, I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm tossing and turning, or, I'm gaining weight, no matter what I try, I'm not eating anything different, but I'm still putting on weight and my body doesn't seem to be responding, or I'm waking up, by 2 p.m., 3 p.m., I'm kind of hitting that return to watching. I'm not sure what I should do with this. Where you're hitting that wall and just energy crashes. And if you feel inflamed or bloated, irritable, and you're still seeing signs that everything is looking normal, I want you to know you're not alone. And this is why it really allows us the opportunity to go beyond symptom care management, right? I want to share this story because I think when we can see real evidence of what is possible, it's inspiring and it gives you feedback of having a new approach of how you think about your health. I mean, oftentimes these things is just more, it's just about having the more information and having the right sequence that can really create massive change. This is a woman I worked with a few years, about a year and a half ago. And when she came to me, she had gained 18 pounds in the last 12 months. She was really frustrated because she's like, I feel like my brain, I have total brain fog. Like I cannot remember anything. I get to the store, do my list to get home, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the one thing that I knew was most important, I didn't even get. I forgot that. And she wasn't fitting into her jeans anymore. And she went from like that place, starting HRT, because she was having some hot flashes, and her doctor had suggested, like, let's start HRT. Obviously, we know estrogen levels and progesterone levels are changing. She went from being in that place to then being able to wear her favorite jeans and remember all of her things, like being stable, grounded, peaceful. And what was missing that her HRT was not addressing was that there were several different layers. Like when she went originally and she was on HRT, her estradiol was within range, her progesterone was within range, her TSH, that's our thyroid hormone, was 2.8, again, normal. Her complete blood count said everything looked within range. So she was told everything was fine, but her symptoms were telling another story. Like like I said, she had gained 18 pounds in 12 months' time. She would not change a single thing about her exercise or about her food choices, and yet wasn't able to wear clothes. Like she would literally be like, I am emotional. Like I'd walk into my closet and feel just so defeated because I didn't even know what I wanted to wear that day, going to, work, going out for the day. It's like nothing had changed. The HRT did help with her hot flashes, but what was missing was, like I said, the physiology underneath it that was silently still progressing, and that was causing the weight gain, that was causing the mood swings, that was causing the 2 a.m. wake up calls, right? So her body was telling a completely different story. Even though she had started HRT, went every 6 months for dose adjustments, and we're told, like, this looks fine, it didn't actually change the underlying dynamics. And that's where we get to look deeper. In her case, she did not have estrogen metabolite testing. And this is really important because especially if you think about putting more hormones into the body, you want to know how your body uses and processes those hormones. She didn't have any methylation testing to see. Methylation is a very important filtering process that happens in the liver with removing hormones and removing toxins out of the body. So she didn't have any of that. She didn't have any additional data to support her thyroid beside the top line TSH. So no free T3, no reverse T3 was measured. She didn't have any ferritin levels measured. She didn't have even a check for sex hormone binding globulin, because when we can put in more hormones, sometimes they can get bound up and cause more inflammation, more weight gain. And so the symptoms she described, like the waking up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, the afternoon energy crash, the weight gain, the brain fog where she couldn't even think clearly. Like that is all indicative that something deeper is happening, even though it wasn't yet showing up in the lab work. And Helen, I see you nodding your head. Do you want to jump in here and add anything to this conversation?
Yeah, I mean everything that you're talking about, it's like women tend to bury the story that their body is telling them, right? They bury the symptoms, they bury the issues in order to, and they look at the most surface thing, like the weight gain or even hot flashes or brain fog, even these things. It's like, how can I solve that from the outside instead of going deep into the inside? And the inside is really that root cause place where if you investigate the story of what's going on instead of just the symptom, that's when you actually can have true healing and feel better for the long haul. Otherwise, it's
Mhm.
short lived and it's temporary. And then maybe you increase medication or you keep messing with medication, you know, upping dose, lowering dose, and finding the right balance when the balance is really deep inside.
Absolutely. When our bodies do shift and change in midlife, I see it as an open doorway. It's an invitation. It's actually an invitation to get more intimate and more
Mm-hmm.
familiar with your body, with your physiology, with your emotions, with what your body is asking for and what it needs now in this new layer. And then be able to have tools. Like we're lucky. We do live in a world where we have access to so much more health information that can allow us to be strategic. So we're not guessing. That's why I say there's benefit in testing rather than guessing, right? It's not, this is what allows us to have confidence in our approach. I want to go back to this client, like for example, when we did some additional testing, what we found for her is that estrogen was moving through her body and getting stuck because she did have some methylation challenges. She needed key nutrients, cofactors, methyl B12 and folate and different nutrients to help her body be able to process that estrogen, that estradiol that was being added in with the HRT. That was causing part of the weight gain, right? That was causing part of the bloated feeling that she was experiencing. So adding more estrogen to a system that was not clearing hormones effectively is not solving the problem. In fact, that's just amplifying one of the underlying core issues. For her, we also looked at her cortisol curve. It was inverted. This makes sense. So she had low morning cortisol and wasn't getting that typical cortisol awakening response. And then actually in the evening, her cortisol was starting to creep up, which is the exact opposite of the pattern that we
Mm-hmm.
want to see. And so when we can see and that no amount of like ashwagandha, no amount of adaptogen is going to help support an inverted cortisol curve. That's going to go deeper into the layers of like what is the rhythms and the patterns that are going to help your body come back into sync and come back into balance. So just what you're talking about, like it's understanding the pieces of the puzzle, what's happening in your body, and then having really clear strategic sequence steps to know how to support it differently. So when cortisol is running in the wrong direction, no amount of HRT or like I said, ashwagandha or you know, adaptogen is going to change that. It slows our thyroid conversion, it changes our metabolic, signaling in the body, and that's really going to have a sustainable, lasting impact until we get that pattern resolved and improved. You're shaking your head again. So what else do you want to add in here?
It's just, you know, having more information doesn't always lead to transformation, but
Mhm.
having an understanding, it's like you can have all this information and do something with it, but what you're talking about is really understanding the deeper level of what's going on, not just having the lab results and then doing something with that. It's like really you're talking about understanding that deeper deeper layer that we get to work with in order to again like have that, I don't know, I'm imagining like soil in the ground where things grow in a beautiful way as opposed to just trying to fix something from the outside.
Yeah. And this is why I think it's, look, why what we get to offer clients, Helen, is working in an environment where you have the coaching support hand in hand with the strategy, right? And because again, it's one thing to intellectually, I would say there's three levels of knowing. There's like the intellectual knowing of like, oh wow, okay, that I can see that logic, that makes sense to me, or I can see the pattern, right? So a lot of what we're talking about with health, it's pattern recognition. That's really what it is. It's pattern recognition and then sequencing appropriately. So you know what to do first, what to do second, what to do third, because the body can only change, one thing at a time. We can't just throw a whole bunch of stuff at it and then expect that it's going to work effectively. So it's pattern recognition, it's sequencing, and then it's like that deeper layer of knowing is like intellectually I can understand it, or I can see the pattern, now I'm aware of it. The second layer of knowing is, oh, okay, I'm actually understanding it, I'm grasping it, I'm starting to put it into practice. Now, in the beginning, sometimes there's going to be some rough edges and it's hard to implement change. Let's be honest. Things don't happen overnight. They usually get amplified in midlife after age 40 or after age 45 because our body has less buffer. We have less sex hormones, so there's less margin. That amplification can be viewed as a pain in the butt. And this is really terrible. I freaking hate midlife. I hate menopause and perimenopause. Or we can choose to say, like, hey, you know what? Maybe this is an opportunity. Yeah, okay, Amanda, it doesn't sound fun, whatever. But maybe this gets to be an opportunity to really collaborate, partner, and learn to have more respect and reverence for our body's needs. That's when it opens up a whole new like possibility. And then that third layer of knowing is it's just who I am. It's like, Helen, you're a mom. I know I'm a mom. No one can ever say like, you're not a mom. And I'll be like, okay, yeah, whatever, I am. Like no one can take that away from you because it's who you are being. It's how you identify as part of yourself. Like when we have that type of knowing, that's when it really solidifies and stays with you in terms of creating that deep transformation in your health experience.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, that identity piece, like who am I? Who am I becoming? What is it worth taking action for based on the information I now know and get to respect about myself? And then Amanda, you said fun. And what I love about the work that we do together and that we also can provide is this level of community where women get to share with each other what's going on with them. And that makes it a little more fun and a little more
Yeah.
digestible. And a lot more relatable, and that feeling that you're not alone, to be able to
Mhm.
talk about it and to be able to get resolve in community with other people I, is more fun than doing it by yourself. I can just
It's way more fun. It's way more fun. And it's so empowering. Again, going back to like having the shared journey, oh my gosh, like I've been there. Like I had a week this week, and it's like other people who can relate to that and be there with you and also lift you up when things are tough, but celebrate you, like high five, this is awesome, like you're just knocking out of the park with your strength training. Or yeah, you figured out for you it wasn't like, again, back to this client story, for her, she thought TSH thyroid looked all normal, it was tested in my labs as normal. Well, guess what, when we looked a little deeper, her her free T3 was really low. That's the active form that your cells need to actually charge up your metabolism and generate energy. Her reverse T3 was elevated. That's the form that shows like, okay, when cortisol is off, when her cortisol was inverted, it's really shunting a lot of that thyroid hormone to say, let's go in conserve mode. It's actually your body's brilliant saying, we need to slow the system down a little bit because you're running on too much cortisol and too much stress. So it's trying to protect you. It's actually trying to protect you when it diverts into reverse T3 because it's utilizing more of your sex hormones for cortisol production. But this was never for her. This was never a food problem again, because so sometimes if we just try and treat the symptom or just try and assume that it's like change what you're eating, exercise more, that was never the problem, right?
Yeah.
For her, it was a different, deeper layer of understanding. And that can be super empowering when you see, like, oh my gosh, my body isn't trying to like work against me. It's actually makes sense. Now I can partner with it and know what to shift and know what to change in a
Yeah, and
different way.
sometimes it is on that deeper level, Amanda. And sometimes I know we were meeting with someone who was having extreme bloating and discomfort in their abdomen, and they were having smoothies with flax meal and chia seed and creatine and all these things that like everybody says are what we're supposed to do in midlife. And yet she was so bloated and uncomfortable. she loves like running and walking. She couldn't even do that comfortably because she felt like her abdomen was so distended. And
Mhm.
what we found out with her is that having something cold and having that much fiber and having dry chia seeds really gets caught in the digestive tract and can cause all of that gas and bloating. And so
Mhm.
sometimes it's as simple as that. But what we had also discovered, Amanda, is that she's not assimilating nutrients because her gut was distended and it wasn't
Yeah.
allowing the absorption of the proper, vitamins and minerals that are necessary for you to feel good and to be able to release weight. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's something as easy as a shift like that, but being able to get in and to see what kind of nutrients are missing is another piece of the puzzle. But sometimes it is that layer of like, there's something simple going on here. You're not
Mhm.
crazy. You do feel this way, and this is what you can do about it so that you can ultimately feel better.
Yes, I love that you say that. And actually that's a great like segue into what we talk about is the hormone freedom assessment. That's a great place to start in terms of this is not clinical. It's not looking at it
Mhm.
from like a lab work piece. It's a what's a user-friendly thing that I can actually make sense of and start with now. And we'll drop that into the chat if you haven't had a chance to take it yet. That's the easiest, like first place to start is 5 minutes, 18 questions. It's going to help you recognize like which hormone pattern
Mhm.
is speaking the loudest. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have any of the other ones. Sometimes women are like, oh, I can kind of see all three of these. And that's fair. Sometimes there are multiple layers. Yet it's helpful to know like which one is really kind of shouting the loudest and saying, hey, like pay attention. I'll go through them really quick. That first is what we call energy and output fatigue. That is really where there's a metabolism mismatch. Either you have a high demand and your body is asking for a lot, but it can't keep up. This looks like brain fog. This looks like low energy and fatigue. This can look like weight gain again around the middle because it's like our metabolism is just sluggish. We're not really having it convert our food effectively and allow you to have, clear mind, creativity, massive like energy without running on caffeine and relying on that to kind of push you through the day. So that's kind of that type 1 pattern where we know, okay, this is probably going to be a metabolic healing opportunity to really look at how is blood sugar controlled? How is the thyroid working? Where does that need support? Type 2 is what we call stress response. This is again where there's likely that cortisol imbalance, whether it be an inverted cortisol, a flatline cortisol, high adrenaline, neopinephrine, epinephrine, but some type of stress response where the body is put in protection mode. This looks like either exhaustion, like I just
Mhm.
like can't drag myself out of bed in the morning, it's hard to wake up and get going, or it can look like wired but tired, like restless. It's hard for me to even sit still, it's hard for me to focus. My mind is all over the place. I have those ruminating, looping thoughts that just keep swirling. That's usually a type 2 stress response. And then we have the type 3, which is what you alluded to, is like the fueling and digestion, right? When you're not able to assimilate and absorb nutrients effectively. Usually there's some gut imbalance that can often lead to like bloating or distension or even constipation, other things that are signaling your body is not able to adequately receive the nourishment and really have it be utilized effectively to keep the system going strong. So yeah, we'll put that in the chat. Thank you for dropping it in. That's always a great place to start is not clinical yet, but what pattern is my body asking for support with first? I think that's really important. And yeah, so I think it's important to acknowledge like as we said before, so many doctors and specialists are out there and they have great knowledge and great resources. It's just a matter of recognizing that it is about going a layer deeper.
Mhm.
Perimenopause is such a buzzword, a catchword. Menopause, like, I don't know. I think they said like Google searches have gone up over 300% in the last year and a half. So this is a good time to be in the conversation about how to become more informed, how to become more empowered in our health. But unfortunately, at the same time, only a third of OB/GYN doctors have menopause training. So it's just not yet caught up with like traditional medicine in terms of having all of the resources, all of the insights and patterns to be able to help piece these puzzle pieces together for an individual.
Yeah, and sometimes women go and seek different practitioners, right? Like I know women who go to GI doctors because they're having the GI issues. They go to OBGYN because they want to get help with hot flashes and brain fog. They may go to like an acupuncturist in order to figure out how to get their chi going and have more energy. And it's like you could go to all of those things, or you can find out everything in one place and you can get a solution that's going to help you move forward without having to manage all of that. I mean, the amount of time that it takes that I hear women who are making appointments to do so many different things, it's like that in itself is overwhelming. So find a practitioner, certainly Amanda and I, or find somebody who's going to look at all of these things and these patterns, your digestion, your mood, your energy levels, your focus, the brain fog, the hot flashes. Like you want to work with someone who's going to look at all of those things in combination with each other, because seeking out separate practitioners for it, they're also not going to be communicating about what's going on so that you can get to that root cause and be able to have that healing in an easier way instead of like this whack-a-mole kind of way.
Yes, that's the key there, is you definitely want somebody who can help put the pieces all together and then work with proper sequence, right? We talked about, and sometimes it is the nuanced pieces of looking deeper, not just what is my complete blood count, what is my TSH, what is my, overall lipid panel look like. It's about getting into some of the nuanced details, because that's actually what's going to allow you to go upstream and look further at the pattern, right? What are my hormone metabolites? How is my body processing hormones? What does my cortisol curve look like? Not just a one, blood draw, that's a one point in time. You want to see that full 24-hour rhythm, because that's so much more indicative. And then have the sequence, have the support and the sequence to not only understand it and make sense of like, okay, these are all the puzzle pieces. Now I can figure out what this means. And then, like we talk about, the support and the ongoing accountability, inspiration, encouragement, and candidly, like fun to be able to execute on some new patterns and allow it to really change your life and change your health. That's exactly what our clients do, right, Helen? It's not, I want you to know, like, it's not rare. And unfortunately, the health model in our country has been designed to be a disease care model, a disease management model. And where we're shifting to now, it's beautiful, because we're really in the space of personal empowerment and women's empowerment and so much access to more tools and resources. That's a double-edged sword, because with that is opportunity and knowledge. It can also be massively overwhelming and almost like move people into paralyzed. Like, I don't know where to start, so I just kind of don't start. Or maybe a kind of whack-a-mole, like you said, try a little bit of this. Okay, that I'm not really sure if that worked or what worked, and then try a little bit of this. Like, okay, I've heard magnesium is good. Let me add some magnesium. And oh no, maybe I need some B vitamins. Okay, I'm going to supplement this. Well, I can't really tell if that worked or didn't work. And that's the thing I think that's most frustrating for a lot of women. That's where I was when I was, working from healing my Hashimoto's and my autoimmune, is like trying, gluten-free, dairy-free, trying to take like 15 different supplements. And at one point I was like, this is overwhelming and I don't even know what's working, if anything. So let's simplify, let's sequence, and let's really be strategic with what's going to create true traction for your body.
Yeah, I think that we tend to give up too quickly too. It's like you think you found something and it doesn't work right away. And then it's like, well, that's not working. I'm just going to go back to my old ways. But being able to have accountability or space and time, Amanda, I know in your program it's 5 months, and in our membership it's ongoing. It's being able to have the patience and the space and the time to have that big win in the beginning, and then to be able to carry it through on and on and on and on until you feel the way that you want to feel is the ultimate, gift, to be able to be in a space where you can be consistent and you can continue to work on it and you can continue to feel supported, as opposed to just, going willy-nilly, taking something, trying something, and then pulling back because you didn't get to see how it was impacting you.
Yeah. Again, yes, so true. And going back to that pattern recognition, that's where confidence is created, is you see the pattern and then you see, and again, women say this to me all the time. I can't believe how much easier this was. And it didn't feel overwhelming because I just made small little incremental shifts, one thing at a time, but they accumulate. Like when you look back several months, it's like, holy cow, that was doable. It was easier than I thought, and it actually was impactful. It made a difference. Like when we talk about whether it's changing bottom line weight on the scale, I always say that's the lagging indicator, because that means your physiology has come into balance and your metabolism is working better. So that's usually the lagging indicator. But way ahead of that, we see mental clarity, we see energy, we see enthusiasm, we see, sleeping through the night. I now have the best sleeps of my night, or best nights of my sleep. Best. I'm
Best
like
sleep of
best
sleep of my
my
life.
life. There you go. Best sleep of my life. Yeah. Those are the things that start to shift and move first. And it's really inspiring to have women look back and see where they were just a handful of months ago, and see how far they've come, because that's inspiring to be like, oh, well, now I have all new goals of what's, not only do I want to like get out of discomfort and get out of pain, I actually want to increase my strength. I actually want to be able to run a half marathon. I actually want to be able to do more things that's like that expands beyond. And that's exactly what we talk about in the membership. Having that ongoing support is really, really powerful.
Yeah, and huge, Amanda, just celebrating wins, right? We
Mm-hmm.
tend to look at, we're like, okay, what else is wrong? What's the next thing
Yeah.
wrong? What else is wrong with me? Instead of being like, oh my gosh, this is what's going well. I dropped some weight. My brain fog is lifted. I have more energy. Being able to not look at yourself as a problem, but look at yourself as being able to be the solution, and to do
Mm-hmm.
that for long term. And that's really what sustains what I see our clients, is the ability to see what's actually working,
Mm-hmm.
and then to look behind them and see how far they came, exactly as you said. But along the way, like every day, what did I do well? What did I focus on? How did I do that? And Amanda, through the weekly accountability and also the accountability chats, it's like, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to share in that energy and that win energy with other women is so key.
Definitely, definitely very powerful. And I do want to share, if there's any questions, anyone here tuning in, feel free to ask your questions. We can definitely go back to the live stream, and if there's on the replay, if there's any questions, we'll go back to answer those. But I do want to kind of circling back to just some practical things to leave for you looking ahead as you think about what is a valuable like set of labs that I can be inquiring about and that I can be asking about. If you're thinking about, where you're at today, is looking for functional ranges, which are more narrow in scope than optimal ranges. This is not your regular reference range from your annual checkup. That's going to be what's common for, two standard deviations of the population that are tested. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily healthy in our country. We want it to be more narrow. So looking for those functional ranges. And I do have a lab work review guide. We can definitely share that if you want to raise your hand or pop it into the chat. That is giving you those more narrow definitions of your annual labs. Also, highly recommend looking at deeper layers of 24-hour cortisol, so you can see the cortisol rhythm, not just a one point in time. Looking at your hormone metabolites. So this is a urine test, and this actually shows how, before you put in any HRT or hormone replacement, how that hormone is going to be utilized in the body, how it's going to be processed through the liver, how it's going to be methylated or not, how effectively it can be excreted so it doesn't pile up and create weight gain, create other anxiety and other symptoms that are undesirable. So urine metabolites of hormone testing, 24-hour cortisol rhythm is really, really valuable. Micronutrient testing, again, is looking at what nutrients actually absorbed at a cellular level, not just circulated, like because you took a magnesium and your magnesium is high in your blood. We want to see, did that magnesium actually translate and get into your cells to be able to have the chemical reactions. Those are important ones. For thyroid health, we definitely want to look beyond TSH, look for free T3, free T4, any thyroid antibodies, TPO, TG, all cortisol production instead of thyroid. And I think it's highly important to start to look for additional markers for blood glucose control. So the most common is blood glucose, which is in your annual metabolic panel. hemoglobin A1C is a better indicator because it'll give you about 3 months worth of information on your hemoglobin blood sugar levels. But beyond that is even fasting insulin. Fasting insulin is a much earlier indicator of blood sugar irregularity, even before hemoglobin A1C. So looking at that, looking at our triglycerides in our lipid panel, and ApoB is a really important differentiator. And it actually gives you more effective assessment of risk of elevated cholesterol, because many women will see their cholesterol levels rise after their hormone levels start to drop. That's very common. The bigger indicator of true cardiovascular risk. Now, we do know estrogen is an important hormone, I would say, balancer, and it can, as estrogen levels drop, some women do experience increased risk of cardiovascular health. Part of it is the type of particles in our cholesterol. So looking at some of those differentials is important. So again, there's the lab work review guide if you want to access that, but I strongly urge all women to really become their own advocate, right? It's the opportunity, partner with someone like Helen and myself, get into our Facebook group. We actually have a private Facebook group where we're having these conversations, where we can answer questions, where we can help support you further. So I'll drop the link in here if you haven't yet gotten in there. Helen's really good. You're very active in there. You're in there multiple times a week.
I love reaching out to members and posting and reposting the information that we share, and getting people all jazzed up to take action is one of my favorite things. So definitely come in there. You'll get a message from me, a private message, and we'll have conversations about your hormones, issues that you may be dealing with, weight release, whatever it is that's going on for you. That's a really great place to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great place. So getting in the conversation about what is the deeper layers for your health, what type of support is going to help you to take the journey of transformation and make midlife actually end up being one of the best blessings, so that it really leaves you in a place of greater skill, more intimate awareness, and conscious agency around your health. I mean, I think that's the biggest key, because if you can step into your 60s being in a place of way more clarity, confidence, and support and skill set about how your body works, that's what's going to make the difference for your 70s, for your 80s, for your 90s. I mean, that's a game changer, right? So how you navigate these years now is really changing the trajectory for decades to come, which is so cool. I actually just recently, yesterday, I had a client who texted me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, your information has been so inspiring and it's so empowering to work with you. I've actually been telling my mom, and she tuned into one of your trainings, and she's a couple decades older than my client, and she's like, this is really helpful for me. Like, it made me realize what can change on a deeper level." When we were talking about, this was at the hormone reset, we were talking about rewiring our neurology and how the nervous system has been programmed with old programs that don't necessarily jive with what we now know in 2026 is important for women's health, and how we can start to still make changes to that. So it affects us for a long time. It's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that we tend to get in that pattern of believing like, oh, my 40s, everything's going to change. My eyesight is getting worse. I'm putting on weight. And we sort of like surrender to all of these things that don't have to be normal. And we get to tell ourselves that new story, Amanda, that this is the time that we get to take advantage of understanding our bodies on a deeper level and have an empowering relationship with it, so that as we get older, we are stronger. We can do things that we never thought that we could do. You could start new things now. Like, it's not like you're
Yeah.
doing less and you're just like complacent. It's like, I'm taking action and being a badass.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So stay tuned to this conversation. If you haven't yet, please take the Hormone Freedom Assessment. That is a great starting point. It's going to help you identify which pattern is asking for support, right? Like, where your body is saying, hey, lean in here. This is the first place to start. We want to simplify this for you and give you that first starting point. And then we can sequence and say, okay, well, how do we build from there? What is going to prioritize your attention, so you start to see some momentum? And then get into the Facebook group. If you haven't yet joined us, be in the conversation. Helen and I are in there all the time. Helen's in there multiple times a week doing lives and fun things. And that's a great way to get support. And again, we're here to help champion you and help inspire you for what gets to happen in the next 6 months. Even the next second half of this year can be a whole different reality for you starting now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up here?
I'm good, Amanda. That was an amazing amount of information that I know that clients of ours and people who are tuning in can really go back and write down all of those amazing things you said about lab tests, because that's the stuff that that we don't really know or take advantage of. We just sit back and get information from doctors, and we just say like, okay, that's enough. But what you're sharing is that there's so much more that we can take advantage of and that we can understand about ourselves, and that's really important.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Wonderful. Great to see you, and enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.